Congressman, I think the main question that everyone has is, was that a picture of you?
Well, the main question that a lot of people are asking is, did I send the photograph? I did not. This was a prank, a hoax. You know, we're trying to get to the bottom of the photograph. You know, why we've retained a firm that is going to take a look at the internet security that we have to make sure this doesn't happen again. Photographs can be inserted, photographs can be manipulated. We're trying to get to the bottom of it. But the important thing here is this was a prank committed on me. You know, someone named Weiner. It's pretty easy to commit pranks on me, and we should keep a focus on that. This is not a crime against humanity. This was a prank that has gotten an enormous amount of attention.
So it sounds like it was a photo of you.
Well, we're going to try to find out exactly what happened. You know, my system was hacked into. The photograph does not look familiar to me, but before I say anything, I want to make sure that nothing was manipulated about it, that it wasn't taken, that something wasn't dropped into my account or taken out. That's why we have a firm that's taking a look at, an internet security firm and others, and we're going to find out.
I think any normal person could say with certainty whether a picture was a photo of them or not, whether they had taken a photo
well,
like
you know,
that.
Jon Stewart might have had it right last night that it didn't look like me for embarrassing reasons.
But you know you better than he does.
But well, Jon and I lived together. Look, we're trying to figure out what happened here. But let's keep an eye on what the big picture is. This was a hoax. Now, it was committed on me. It was a prank. It was a relatively easy one to do, making fun of my name. My accounts were hacked into. I think that at some point we've got to start focusing on other issues. Now, one of the reasons I did ask for a firm to go in who's going to get help from internet security types to try to figure out what exactly happened, try to get to the bottom of it, and hopefully we'll learn that.
So assuming that it was a picture of you, because I think that that's the conclusion that a lot of people are going to draw, do you think that someone knew that you had a photo like that in your account and then knew enough of your account information to be able to hack into it and send it?
This is exactly the problem that we have with this issue, and I just want you to respect the idea that at some point the questions can get more and more and more invasive and bizarre. You know, let's remember what happened here. Someone posted something on my Twitter page that was apparently directed at someone who says they don't know me and I don't know her. She says she didn't get it. I didn't send it. So then it becomes, well, how did someone get access to my account? How did someone get access to photographs? Is the photograph, you know, was it manipulated? Was it dropped in? We don't know. I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, but I'm also trying to do something else, with all due respect. I'm trying to figure out the point at which it's reasonable and fair for me to say, this is ridiculous already. This is a silly conversation to be having over and over and over again about something that really doesn't amount to very much. You know, someone made fun of my name with a Twitter hoax. Okay, now what? Do we keep having conversations about what was in my files, who was in my files, what pictures were there, what pictures were manipulated that were there? You can do that, but with all respect, I don't really see the value of doing this over and over.
Do you think you know who did it?
I don't know. I do have someone that I've asked who are professionals to come in who look at this kind of stuff for big firms and to try to understand it. I'm not treating it as if this is a federal case, you know. I tweet dozens and dozens of times. I've got 45,000 followers. I get people sending me nasty tweets all the time. I try to be feisty on that page. I get internet hacked things all the time. I think all of us do. You know, hundreds of thousands of Americans every day probably get an email from someone with a friend's name on it. It turns out that the internet, that the email is not from them. All that being said, let's try to keep in mind here. You know, we're talking about this in the context. You know, we have the full faith and credit of the United States government was voted on yesterday, on the same day that people wanted to ask me questions only about this. And at some point, I think it's fair for me to say, let me get back to work.
Had you had private conversations, email conversations, or Twitter conversations with this woman before?
I don't know this woman. This woman doesn't know me. I follow her because she responded to something called #WeinerYes, where people request me to follow them. She follows me, 45,000 Americans. That's Rep. Weiner as my Twitter. I have one of the biggest Twitter followings around. I'm very proud of that. A lot of them are following me just to make fun of me, just to mock me. But the answer is I don't know this woman. She doesn't know me. She's made that very clear, and I'm making it very clear.
Have you spoken to her since this happened?
No.
She said she can't confirm or deny these hacking claims. She's not sure herself what happened.
All I can tell you is, I'm a victim, but she certainly is. It doesn't sound to me like she had anything to do with anything. She put out a long statement that made that very clear on Saturday or Sunday, and I think that, you know, one of my great regrets here is, you know, I'm a member of Congress. I'm a big boy. I put myself out there. I make fun of people. I take shots. I can take shots. Now this has become the place that people who follow me, with those 45,000 followers, are getting harassing emails and getting harassing phone calls. People that I follow are getting their pictures put in the newspaper because I responded when they asked me to follow. This is how social media is a place that people form networks that get wider and wider. That doesn't necessarily mean everybody knows everyone within that social media, and it also doesn't mean that it's hermetically sealed. If people want to cause trouble, they can, and in this case, they surely have. But as much as people may take a shot at me, harassing regular Americans who just happen to follow me and believe what I do is really, I think, across the line.
I would imagine you don't want an incident like this to hound you for years and years as you run for perhaps this office again, maybe another office. Why not ask the authorities to investigate simply to clear your name?
Well, we'll see. I mean, one of the reasons I asked a law firm and internet security operation to come in is to give us advice on that. You know, first of all, I don't believe that this is a federal case. I don't believe this is a capital crime. I believe this is a bit of mischief. And I'm treating it that way.
But it's causing more than mischief for you now.
It's causing, but it's causing more mischief. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I ask the taxpayers of the United States of America to undergo a big investigation on who posted a silly picture on my Twitter page. It doesn't necessarily mean, for example, that if there was something that had nothing to do with the federal government, that I should be calling in the FBI. But let me just say this: this is why I've asked professionals who I'm paying to come in and give me an assessment on what they think. The most important thing from my perspective is making sure that my account's secure, that no other person gets harassed from the thing being sent from my account. But you know, people want to make this a federal case, want to make this a capital crime. Look, I see it as a prank, and I also see it as an extension of happens to people every single day in this country. I would be surprised if you didn't get an email in the last 48 hours that was some way spam or a hoax email that came from someone spoofing, pretending to be someone else. I can show you one I got yesterday. It happens. It doesn't mean that every single time that it happens, we all treat it like a federal case.
Just one last question.
Sure.
How has your wife reacted to all of this?
Well, you know, my wife is a remarkable woman. We've only been married less than a year, and I think to some degree when you marry a member of Congress, you expect a certain level of aggravation. But she is a remarkably strong woman. She works for Secretary Clinton. She worked for the First Lady back in the days of some remarkable things going on there. She's a very strong woman. But, you know, when you have people who are standing outside her house, when you have her sister being harassed by reporters because I happen to follow her, and she happens to be a very lovely woman, something's gone terribly wrong. And so I think that, you know, I have a right to a certain level of privacy and a certain level to say, okay, enough. And hopefully by having a long conversation with the folks at CBS, we'll get to that place.
Congressman, thank you so much
You
for
got
talking
it.
with
My
us.
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.